Good afternoon and welcome to the Parking Task Force of the Town of Wellfleet at our March 20th meeting. We've posted this and we're ready to go. When we get later, I'll introduce our guests. But first off, any announcements and public comment by anybody? Hearing none, we have the minutes of the meeting. Wayne?
These are the latest that I sent you. The only change is...
Borrow the mic.
Yeah, these are the latest minutes. The only changes you see are in red. Just changed a little wording down here, deleted the date, and everything else. And we took an E out of Denny's name, and that's it. So what you've seen previously is what you have here.
Take a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? If not, thank you. Now we go into the main part of our meeting. We have, as invited guests, we have Leslie Reynolds, the Chief Ranger of the Cape Cod National Seashore, and Kathy Trevlaw, the Deputy Superintendent of the Seashore. And we were really interested in how you do some of the administrative aspects of your parking. We've been through a lot of different things. And I'm sorry Suzanne can't be here. I know she's been talking with Leslie at least. And and if you would use the microphone so that we can get the recording of this. So who do I go to?
Sure. Let me just start out and just say that we're happy to be here to help. Your questions that you forwarded to Leslie are quite helpful in helping us construct some of the examples that we have. And basically, I think we have a lot to share from things that we've learned from managing parking lots and erosion and millions of visitors. So we're trying to do similar jobs. And if it works the best for you, we can just tackle these questions and feel free to insert additional questions as they come up.
Okay.
You want to start the list, Leslie? Sure.
I did
Okay.
not copy those for everybody. Because I sent them to you earlier and they really they're all over the board, right?
So I can read the question and then talk about the answer?
Sure. That'd be great.
Okay. So the first question is paid parking season, question mark. So we start collecting at 4 out of our 6 beaches Memorial Day weekend. Then we collect only the next 2 weekends at 4 out of 6 beaches. We begin collecting at 6 beaches, total of 6, starting generally the 3rd Thursday in June, but this year it'll be the 4th Thursday in June. And that's when our operation goes 7 days a week at all 6 beaches. We do 7 days a week at all 6 beaches through Labor Day. Then the following 2 weekends, we only collect on weekends and only at 4 out of the 6 beaches.
Can you just go through where your beaches are quickly?
So the 4 beaches that we collect starting Memorial Day are Little Creek, and that is our tram shuttle service that takes visitors to Coast Guard Beach in Eastham, Nauset Light Beach in Eastham, Race Point in Provincetown, and Herring Cove in Provincetown. When we collect at all 6 beaches, we add in Marconi Beach in Wellfleet and Head of the Meadow Beach in Truro.
Okay.
You asked for our hours of operation. Generally, they're daytime hours. They can start anywhere from 7 and end at 6 p.m., but generally 8 to 4:30 is our hours of collection. That's when we have our fee collectors at our beaches collecting fees.
Can people go in before then?
They can.
And what do you do?
What do we do? Really nothing. If they come in, a lot of surfers will come in early, park, surf for an hour, maybe not even as much, and leave. Sometimes people will come in and maybe 7 a.m. and enjoy the beach and leave by 9. I think it's pretty rare for somebody to come in before we start collecting and stay all the way till 5 p.m. So we do have some turnover, but do we go in and make sure everyone has paid, look at a receipt on their vehicle? No, we don't do that.
Okay.
So just like you, we accept that we can't support an ideal operation. That's why we kind of taper it at the beginning of the season. We have to taper off. We can't get enough fee collectors sometimes to work an entire 10, 12 weeks. So we have to adapt to what our workforce is. We also accept that we can't be out there from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. So we accept that there's some loss.
Is that 8 to 5 a one shift for your workers?
It depends. There are some shorter shifts, some longer shifts, but in general, they're all working 8-hour shifts.
Okay.
Do you hire civilians to do, can you go outside the Park Service to have people do that work, or?
Oh, sure. We hire them all from outside the
okay,
Park
so you
Service.
do, okay.
Yeah, those are our seasonal.
Rangers, you don't have a ranger assigned to kiosks?
There's a different level of hiring, and Leslie can speak to that, with people with law enforcement commissions.
Pull the mic over.
Oh, pardon me.
No, they'll have a receipt or a parking pass, and they can show that. Yeah. So the rangers that collect the fees, they're visitor use assistants, and that's the series and the name of the position that we advertise for and fill. And then you have protection rangers like myself, and we have interpretive rangers, and then maintenance, and so there's different job series, but it is the visitor use assistant that collects the fees.
I have one more question. So, and can you buy, if I was going to be here for a month or something, I could buy a sticker, a daily, sort of like the town?
Yeah, you could buy a Keiko Pass, which is $60 for a season, and that'll be a sticker on your front windshield. You could buy an interagency annual pass for $80, and that'll get you into any Park Service site in the country for a year.
Right.
You can buy a day pass for $20 for your vehicle, and then there's an individual and a motorcycle rate as well.
And what is it, an individual is a walk-on?
Yes,
And how much is that now?
$10.
$10. Thank you.
That's per person, not per family, right?
Correct.
Okay.
$20 per
Do you-
Or $20 per car, so you can
All
have
right.
a bunch of people in at one car, and that's $20 for everybody.
Check the trunks? No.
No, we don't.
Here in Wellfleet, I think they mentioned that because of the staffing issues they have with some of the younger folks, they've been focusing more on senior citizens, like better than half of our gatekeepers. Is that the same with the Seashore, or not?
God, I don't really pay attention to the age group, but I think we're a good mix, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. We do try to recruit a lot of locals because of housing.
Oh, yeah.
And, sometimes we'll go to the high schools, or we try to recruit this year using Facebook and social media. And I'll see when everybody shows up for the training,
Yeah.
how that worked. We never get as many locals as we want, that's for sure.
Thank you.
So a lot of these questions are on Denny's list.
Yeah, why
of
don't we let her go
Okay,
through the
I'm
whole
sorry.
We can
presentation?
keep
Okay.
going, but jump in
Yep.
anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You asked if are there any reserved spaces? And I would say 99% of the time, no. By policy, we're not allowed to reserve spaces. It's first come, first served, public park. We do have an agreement with the town of Eastham that was set up years ago because the town of Eastham chose not to manage an oceanside beach. So those beaches were given to Cape Cod National Seashore. So we manage the beaches on the ocean side in the town of Eastham. So we do have an upper lot at the Coast Guard Station in Eastham. So as you recall, Little Creek is an off-site parking area that we shuttle the public to Coast Guard Beach in Eastham. But there is an upper lot. And in that upper lot, we do have spaces assigned, handicap, some interpretive programs that take place early in the morning, Eastham residents, lifeguards, and a few administrative parking spaces. And that is managed under a general agreement with the superintendent and the town administrator of Eastham. But other than that, we may set aside an area of parking for the Pan Mass. That doesn't mean that the public is excluded from that parking, but we'll tell the Pan Mass, you can park in this section of the parking lot.
Did we cover midnight to 6?
No, missed that one. Your question was overnight, question mark. So our parking lots are closed from midnight to 6 a.m. unless you have a special use permit or commercial use authorization permit. For example, if you're a ham radio operator and you've submitted a permit to use the radio, we may approve that permit, which will allow you to park in our lots after midnight.
Is there a physical barrier at midnight, or just, that's the policy?
No, yeah, just the policy.
Okay.
Thanks, Kath.
Spaces?
Oh, how many spaces per lot? So I'm just going to talk about the spaces that we collect fees at. So Little Creek, we have 360 spaces. Nauset Light Beach, 94.
We think there's still 94.
Yeah, that probably will, that might decrease.
Changes daily.
Marconi Beach, 528. Head of the Meadow, 285. Race Point, 360. And Herring Cove, when both the south and the north are open, 400. We do have other parking areas in the park that we don't charge fees at, and that's our visitor center parking lots and our picnic areas. So it'd be Salt Pond Visitor Center, Province Lands Visitor Center, and then we have a couple picnic areas, Pilgrim Heights and Marconi Site and Doan Rock. And Doan Rock, the restriction at Doan Rock's a little different. Those are 2-hour parking restrictions. So for we restrict that to 2 hours.
So the big picture of parking in the seashore is basically about 2,000 spaces are managed as beach parking lots and where we collect a fee. And there's probably another 1,000 or more spaces that are free spaces throughout the seashore. They're not at the beaches.
And only Doan Rock has the 2-hour limit on it?
Correct. Next question is, do you have controlled parking regardless of weather? I assumed you were asking if our fee collectors are still collecting when there's bad weather.
Yes.
So my answer is, when we have severe weather, we'll close the booth. You know, if there's lightning, the fee collector will get in the vehicle and leave the area. But as soon as it clears off, they'll be back in.
Okay.
And during that time, people can drive in and park. Yeah, absolutely, yep. Do all the lots have fees? No, we only collect at the 6 parking lots. What form of capacity control do you use? We staff fee collectors or the visitor use assistants at each of the 6 beach parking lots during the season.
And so when it gets full, he or she won't let anybody else in, or
That's correct, yep. I think you asked that question, and
probably?
Yep.
yeah, you told me, yeah, okay. Is there an entry fee? Yes. So I went over those, so I can go over them again, or?
Nope, that's
You good?
fine.
Okay. Let's see, how do you deal with people who park prior to attendance at the gate?
We covered that. Yep.
Covered that. On sites where you don't have fees, do you have time limits? Covered that. How frequently do you change your park status sign on the highway? Great question. On busy summer days, the sign gets changed for every lot that fills up and then reopens, then fills up, and so on and so on. So sometimes during our busiest time, it can get changed 10 to 12 times a day. And the fee collectors will call in to our headquarters building where we hire a seasonal dispatcher, and that dispatcher is able to use a software program on the computer and electronically change the sign. Sometimes that software goes down, and then a law enforcement ranger will have to go to the sign and change it. But we like to have that operating because we don't always have the staff to get there to the actual sign in a timely manner. And we pay Verizon for that service, generally $8 a month, which is not bad.
Wow.
No,
Is that just the one sign at the visitor center in Eastham?
correct.
And that handles signage for Marconi, Coast Guard Beach. And the Coast Guard Beach parking would be at?
Little Creek.
Little Creek. So, so you're telling, all right, so now you're full, and I'm your attendant, and I see 2 spots open. Do I say that then, or do I wait till like there's 4, or, because what if people are racing there and by the time they get there, poof, luck of the draw.
I
Yeah,
think,
you
yeah,
take that
they
one
do
out,
it
then I
as
wanna
soon,
talk-
they do it as soon as they're able. They're not perfect.
Right.
You know, they may be letting a couple cars in, they do their best. But I think, in general, we try to capture the people coming on 6 early enough that if they see that they're full or open, they can make that right in. Or if they see they're full, they can keep going.
Right.
So in the big picture, again, we've studied this whole real-time information and how we get it to the visitors in terms of parking, because they do queue up, our lots fill up, they close sometimes in July and August. And so the extent of our smart information on parking is, right now, that one electronic sign on the highway. And it only addresses the 3 beaches in Eastham and Wellfleet. We've talked and studied this issue with the Volpe Center, the transportation center out of Boston, because they are just dying to create with us this new intelligent transportation system where it's just real time and every parking lot has that kind of reporting and can get to somebody on their phone and they just can find that information easily. We've yet to make that work. We studied it, we sort of built it out conceptually, and because of the lack of phone reliability, we haven't been able to make it work, with cameras at the booths and counting cars going in and cars coming out. So it's definitely something we've talked about and we've studied. We've yet to find something to implement yet. So
Did
that little electronic sign is the extent of it right now, but it's pretty effective.
Did they ever come up with an estimate on the cost of what it might take to do the
They probably did. I
Okay.
can dig that up.
second?
But I think, yeah, to create something, we had a budget a couple of years ago, and that they underwrote it for, maybe it was $100,000, but I can find that out.
Okay.
Is
But implementation, I can't think of the amount.
Is parking status on your website?
No, it just changes too fast. There's no way we can keep up with that. That's why, this is the whole reason that we tried to figure out what can we do real time.
Yeah, cameras would be nice.
Yeah, that was part of the study.
I think what is fascinating too, and you may experience it here, is that when we have a lot of returnees to our beaches, and they really only want to go to that one beach that they really love, right? So they're very committed to that one beach, so they'll wait.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Do you allow much waiting?
We allow some queuing when it's safe to do so. When it starts impacting the flow of traffic, then VUA will, the visitor use assistant will come out of the booth, because we generally have 2 to a booth for safety reasons. They'll come out of a booth and then start managing that line of traffic, telling them to either circle around or letting them know which beach has available parking spaces. And generally, that happens the most, I would say, at Herring Cove and Nauset Light Beach.
Okay.
Let's see.
17.
Yep, how do you control people parking in a lot but not staying at a site? As long as visitors are recreating in the park, we consider that staying at the site. So they may park there and be on the bike trail, they may park there and go for a hike, absolutely acceptable. Do we get complaints about parking? We do, not as many as you would think, and the occasional ones are when the lot fills up. But, I may deal with a couple a season. That's about it. It's
We
not.
don't get too many letters.
We don't get too many. Usually the fee collectors at the booth will hear it, and then the person will go in or turn around or go to the next booth.
And unlike you, we have this big visitor center where a lot of people start their visit if they've never been here. So we can preempt a lot of the complaints about surprises out there in the park because our visitor center helps orient everybody and, you know, we can explain at that point, here's how you need to think about going to the beach. So we help them out.
Do people park at the visitor center and get a shuttle to the beach? Oh, okay, sure.
No, but they can ride their bike to the beach, or they could walk to the beach. Absolutely.
About
Is the-
About a mile.
So it's two questions. If I'm a walk-on with my bicycle, it's the same price, it's $10.
Correct.
And the parking lot behind South Wellfleet Market that is at the end of the rail trail, is that your jurisdiction or is that ours?
It's the state.
That's the state's.
Department of
Okay.
Recreation, yeah.
Just trying to remember. Thank you.
So you ask if drop-off and pickup is permitted? No, not when the VUAs. It's a traffic safety. Can't have people parking along the side of the road. Everybody bails out with all their gear, crosses traffic. Our visitors, you know, they're driving along, they don't know where they are. It could be, you know, pretty catastrophic. So we do proactively enforce that with the law enforcement and the VUA staff. That we don't allow it.
And this is also an evolution of an approach because maybe 15 years ago, we did experiment at, I think, Coast Guard Beach with drop-off, and all of the safety issues emerged. So we have experimented where you say, oh, well, I think this might work, and then you learn it doesn't. So you make the adjustment.
Was that before or after it filled up? They could drop off anytime.
Well, there was no lot there at that
Oh,
point.
that's right,
And
yeah.
that's where it grew, yes, it was before the shuttle stop. So
Okay.
we did a big study, Volpe was in again, and the result was a tram operation there.
Next question is, are there any trends in parking demand over the years? You want to take this one, Kath?
Sure. I think we're all looking at the same issues. We're dealing with the same things. The National Park Service, we have to address our own policies. And in general, we're going to retreat and rebuild. That's our approach. But we're facing all of the threats of erosion and coastal change at some beaches more than others. So for instance, we have retreated and rebuilt a parking lot at Herring Cove Beach. That should be done in the next several months. Nauset Light Beach, the same thing. The erosion rate there just really dramatically increased over the last 5 years, maybe 6 years. And so once again, we're prepared to adjust the size of the parking lot, downsize it, roll it back, but we need a long-term plan like you do. Okay, when that lot is gone, what do we do? And what we've learned, at least at Coast Guard, is a tram operation is safe and efficient and successful. But we don't have any plan yet for what the long-term solution is. So we have lost some capacity. We've recaptured it completely at Herring Cove. We have 208 parking spaces again for the north lot. That's important. Same sort of visitor experience. It's a long lot. You can views of the ocean. So we build those into the conceptual plans and at least our goals. Can we always reach them? Not necessarily, but we try to employ a good planning practice and bring in the engineers and bring in the specialists, transportation specialists.
Do you generally fill up every day, or is there some seasonal or daily variations?
Yeah, that's tough. I would say mostly in July and August, maybe up to 2 weeks at a time at each lot, depending on the weather.
Yep.
Right.
What about Marconi specifically? How often does that fill
I'd
up?
say a handful of times at Marconi.
It fills up a
each
handful
summer.
of times this summer?
Yeah.
4th of July,
Yeah.
Labor Day?
You know, and sometimes not even in the holidays. It's interesting that you would think Labor Day, or you think 4th of July, but sometimes it's on the weekend before, or the weekend after. I'm sure you're seeing that at your beaches too. Right.
So the weekends are the heavy times.
Generally, but all of a sudden it can be Wednesday in the third week of August, and 3 of the parking lots fill up at our beaches.
You can definitely identify the trends based on what we find is, weather is the huge factor, but what we find are the last 2 weeks of July, first 2 weeks of August are the highest visitation that we have. So if beach lots are going to close, that's when we're going to see it. And Marconi is rare, it might be a handful of times, as Leslie says, but Herring Cove, they could be queued up, and those lots can close too. And they close for a period of time. Maybe it's an hour, a couple hours until people turn over. So you have the early birds and you have the late afternoon folks.
Is arrival time somewhat tide dependent at all?
Arrival time?
Yeah.
It can be. I think the surfers are definitely, looking at the tides, but we see a lot of families who are arriving earlier in the day and then, they're going to eat lunch somewhere else. But the others come all packed up to spend 8 hours there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see the families with the younger children low tide, because they
Yeah.
can play more in the sandbars and such.
You have a
Dan?
question, Dan? Yeah.
Or kneel next to Sheila.
You
so-
don't even have to.
It's here right behind.
That's fine.
You can sit in my lap.
So, regarding when lots are full, having worked in Provincetown before and been a part of the parking department and trying to help them strategize there, ideally, I would love to see the Seashore and the Outer Cape communities all work together to have the information on an app where somebody coming onto Cape Cod would be able to pull it up and see all of the parking lots that are on the Outer Cape, including, the Municipal lot, the Herring Cove lot in Provincetown, Whitecrest Beach, and our various parking lots. That can be a problem as far as controlling, knowing how full it is. In Provincetown, they started to use kiosk, which this year we're going to use at Whitecrest as an experiment. But when you have the kiosk, it solves the problem when you can't find staffing. If you want the hours to be more than what you can get staffing for, the kiosk, in both lots in Provincetown now, they're 24/7 during the summer months because they don't need a staff person in there. The kiosk can take anybody's, they can take cash, they can take credit card, they can take whatever they need to take. Residents who have a parking pass get a little transponder that goes on their windshield. So when I drive up to one of those lots at 2 in the morning and I don't have any cash with me, but if I've got my transponder, the lot gate just opens automatically. But what those kiosks do especially is they will provide you an accurate count at all times because you've got how many cars are going in and how many cars are leaving. So the count at the lots almost becomes an automatic. So perhaps if we all shared an app to help visitors to Cape Cod, especially the Outer Cape, to determine where can I go to the beach that's got parking for me. And maybe it says Whitecrest Beach has 340 spaces and it's 95% full. But Marconi Beach has 528 spaces and it's only 60% full. I've got a better chance if I go to Marconi Beach. Perhaps if we could all work together on that, I think that might be a great solution that would help everybody and would help our visitors as well. One of the things I wanted to ask you.
Dan, let me just
Sure.
comment on that piece right there. So what you're suggesting is that everybody do electronic and remote payment for lots.
As much as we could.
Yeah.
If we can't get to that point, at least if you have attendants who can call in and say, I'm 90% full, to give people who are coming in from onto the Cape an idea of where they might be able to find parking.
I think it's a great concept. The federal government isn't there yet because you must think we're more advanced than we are. But we have such strict fee collection policy. It hasn't been replaced with electronic options.
I work with you all the time, and I know how qualified both of you are too. I forget that you work for the federal government sometimes, so that is a little
Leslie
bit
and
of
I
a drawback.
we can't change that one, but I love the concept.
I'd love to see us be able to do something like that at some point, so,
Yeah, Volpe, and the Volpe Center, I'm sure would have,
yeah.
you know, some sort of consultation or be willing to do that. I'm sure that's the idea that they had when they said, oh, can we do a pilot
Yeah.
in your park? And it didn't get there. So we know we don't have the infrastructure, but they were probably trying to
Maybe I can work with them
do a
this year or
pilot
something.
so
and-
that maybe that policy could be broadened.
Yeah.
Right now, it's pretty strict.
Get who? Yeah, Joe, yeah.
So I have one other question for you. You have an individual drop-off fee of $10, is that right?
It's not drop-off,
We don't have a drop-off.
Okay,
it's walking.
Yeah, individual walkers and
Yep.
bicyclists.
okay. So if Cape Cod Regional Transit has a shuttle bus in Provincetown, and if they drop people off at Herring Cove, there's no charge for them coming to the beach at Herring Cove?
No,
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
So,
we do charge. So the RTA, each individual that rides the RTA bus that goes to Herring Cove, they pay the individual fee.
okay, they do then. So in Wellfleet, we have an issue, I guess from what I'm understanding from certain people, is that's highlighted for July 4th, where we have busloads of tour buses basically dropping people off at our beaches. And we don't charge them, we don't, they just, we may have 20 or 30 buses on the 4th of July holiday if it's nice weather. Do you have that problem at all? And if you do, how do you handle it? Or how do you prevent it from happening in the first
Yeah,
place?
we don't allow full-size buses into our beach parking lots.
Okay,
So there's no drop-off in general. They just aren't built to handle those large buses.
okay.
Herring Cove.
Thank you for letting me
Oh, I'm
ask these
sorry, yeah.
questions.
Because of the
Go
RTA.
ahead.
Follow up.
Oh, because the RTA, yeah,
What
they're
if
the
there's
only
like a
exception.
small sort of private van that has 20 people? I and my friends, we're all going to go down the Cape for the day, we're all going to go down to Marconi Beach.
Is it completely social? It's not a business?
Oh, no,
Just-
we hired this van.
Yeah, family event.
Yeah, we hired a van, and the van's going to drop us off. So,
So,
No drop-offs.
yeah, there's no drop-off, so that gets a little tricky, because if
did-
it's a commercial operation, then they have to get a road-based commercial use authorization permit, which is a particular fee, and pay a management fee at the end of that year. So if it happens once, we'll educate them. Our commercial services expert will contact the company, and she'll line them up with the CUA process.
so
That
if I'm,
excludes- Oh, go ahead, sorry, sir.
all right, so if I'm a vendor and I have a bus service, that's what I would do. I would
Correct.
contact you, I would register myself, I am going to be periodically
You'd
bringing
apply.
people. I would apply.
We'd have to approve.
Me,
You
right.
pay an
So for
application
2 years.
fee, and then at the end, you'd have to submit an audit, and then pay a management fee, which will be, starting October 1st, $5 per person. And that'll come to the park.
Yeah, because, so we have, if I can just elaborate a little bit more on these, so we have people coming and dropping people off, and then the big bus is like, where am I gonna go? And they'll maybe go down to Dunkin' Donuts, or up at the school, or, and sit there and, I don't know. But, I am of the feeling that, number one, we should have some sort of outreach to these people, have them register with us, that they have been authorized, that we will allow so many bus companies to deal with, no more, that wouldn't be, and each person on there should pay a fee either through them or have a check for us for the number of people that are getting off that bus, because even though they might not be parking here, or even going to other places afterward, they're tromping down they're weakening the whole infrastructure and using it and using all the facilities.
They're recreating at your beach.
They're recreating and rolling down those dunes, or their children are trying to, and some people are very good about that and some people aren't. And so anyway, that's my commentary, and
Wayne?
Well, the slight issue we have that's different than you, I think, is that we cannot charge a per-head fee because we pick up a liability there. So the only thing we can charge for is either a car to park or a bus to park. But we can't charge, you can't do a walk-in fee or a bike-in fee, so.
You're familiar with that, Dan?
It's basically,
basically town
if we're
council.
charging to use the beach, then we start to assume some liability for anything that happens to them while they're on their beach. If we're just charging for parking, it's different. But once we start charging for the use of the beach, that's where we start to run into trouble.
so if so we're liable for the car. If something happens to
No.
that, say my car gets broken into and my bags are stolen, is the town have some responsibility if we're charging for parking?
Usually on the back of the ticket, on any parking ticket, it basically says, we have no liability.
Yeah, okay,
to your
right.
car.
But if we have a sinkhole open up in the middle of the parking lot, we might have a problem.
And we can't have that same disclosure at the back of a walk-in ticket, like, you know, you walk in at your own risk, or?
An attorney can sue for anything.
Okay, that's true.
So it's
Yeah, so,
possible that an attorney could sue us for anything. But we've been advised by town council
right,
that if you charge for access to the beach, you then have a responsibility to make sure that their activity at the beach is safe.
right, so there's lifeguards, you know, and you're, okay.
We've been told that we can't monitor or stop people from, or buses from dropping people off on Ocean View Drive. Does the CUA that you require, is that because you have private roads or they're federal roads? Or is that something we could look into?
The CUA is a commercial use authorization that is the National Park Service's system of permitting commercial uses within a national park.
All right, so because we're not part of, well, we're sort of, they pass through the park, but they're not at the park. I
Yeah,
guess.
they're on probably town land is what
Right,
you're talking
okay.
about, yeah.
Did I give you more?
Got one more. It's
Susie?
any impacts from sharks? So my answer is it's hard to say because the fatality occurred in September and we were just about done charging at our beaches. So guess we'll see this summer, you know, coming up. But I can say in general, because I've been at the seashore since 2012, my lifeguards have not noticed a decrease in visitation at our lifeguarded beaches. Little Creek, we're still transporting anywhere from $87,000 to $89,000 every year, and that hasn't altered. What generally does alter visitation is construction, erosion, weather.
Do your shuttle buses pay for themselves? By the head charge or the $20 parking fee, does that cover it?
We generally spend about $8,000 a year in maintenance costs for our trams, you know. We're transitioning now, do you want to talk about transportation fee?
It's
Or-
probably too detailed, but let's just say that tram operation is a small part of our parking
Yeah.
management. Very little that the National Park Service does pays for itself. I mean, we're authorized money by Congress to do this job.
Right.
So we're not charging based on covering costs. We're trying to be smart, and we have to follow policy. That's what our fees are based on, national policy. They're not based locally. They're not decided locally. So it's hard to say whether we've never evaluated, does the tram operation pay for itself? We know the cost of it. We probably collect maybe $2 million a year on parking, on our recreation fee program, but we get to retain about 78% of that in the park. The other 22% covers costs and goes to Washington, a large national pot of money. So that definitely pays for all the cost of collection and our fee collectors and our fee booths and our software and all the materials that we use. And then the rest of that money is authorized by Congress to address all of the deferred maintenance needs in the parks and the Park Service.
Right.
What type of vehicle are the trams and how many do you have? Like, is it a small bus? Is it a big bus?
No,
Is it-
they're open trams. They
Like
have
a
an
trolley?
engine car and trailing cars.
Diesel or electric or?
Hmm.
Doesn't
You
matter.
know, we're in it,
We're just looking into them. That's why we're sort of curious. Yeah.
yeah, they're unleaded, but we're updating them, so we can get you some specs.
Yeah, it's okay.
How many do you have? How many are running back and forth?
4
That-
engines?
We just got 2 new replacements, so, and some are pretty old and that we're working on, but in general, we run between 2 and 4 a day. And you're more than welcome, we'll start operating those in Memorial Day. You know, go for a ride.
Yeah, well, come down.
They're very enjoyable, they resemble Disney.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so that's what they
A
look
little
like?
like a
Yeah.
trolley
And
car,
what's
too.
the
You
wait
guys,
time
we
in
could
between?
you could do a field trip, that's a good idea.
What's the wait time in between pickups and drop-offs? Like, they come every 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an
Yeah,
hour?
exactly. You know, and real busy when we have 4 trams, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, it's pretty, all of our tram operators, they have to have a certain class license to be hired, and they come back year after year after year after year with us. So we're very lucky. We have very skilled tram operators, because they're transporting quite a lot of people,
Are they local people, or are there people that live away and they come here for the summer?
local.
Good.
One
All
of
6 of them. We have 3 full-time, 3 part-time, all local.
go ahead.
When you ask how often do the trams come, I have to picture, you know, you can't tell how many, like, surfboards and coolers and
That's my next
babies
question.
or toddlers or grandparents there are, so it kind of fluctuates.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You have to load them carefully, and then unload them, so.
Strap
You
them
don't have
on.
any policy about carry-on equipment and all that sort of stuff?
No, we do. There's certain height restrictions on surfboards, and no pets are allowed on the tram unless, of course, it's service dog.
You have no pets on the beach too, right?
On the generally, pets are allowed except if we have a closure for shorebirds,
Okay.
or when the lifeguards are on duty, in the particular area that the lifeguards are stationed, there's no pets that can stay there, but you can walk your pet through that area to outside the lifeguarded area.
That's a leash law.
Yeah, absolutely, a leash law, yes.
And head count, I've heard that there was, you folks may have done in the past, I don't think recently, how much, what's the safe capacity of a beach based on the number of people to lifeguard ratio? Is that something you update regularly, or is it, maybe it doesn't happen, I don't know. We're just trying to determine, like, we can add up to, you know, if you pushed it, 700 spaces at Whitecrest Beach, but can Whitecrest Beach and the other adjacent, can they handle it? And we're just trying to figure out what technology you can use to determine, you know, what's a valid number of people to be on a beach of X length with X number of lifeguards.
Boy, that's an excellent question. We have lifeguard staffing at particular beach based on 25 years of statistics of how many rescues and assists at that particular beach. And sometimes the beach conditions change, like a beach that didn't have a sandbar now has a sandbar, so we have a much higher risk of riptides. But in general, I can tell you Coast Guard Beach has the most rescues and assists, and I have 9 lifeguards assigned there for the summer. Now, that may rotate on 4 chairs, how many are on duty, but with the amount of parking, so that's limits the capacity, and the amount of lifeguards that we hire, and then the 4 chairs, that is our capacity. There's no technology that we use to base that off of, except the parking. And then what my lifeguards tell me that they're able to manage. But sometimes what happens is the people want to be on the lifeguarded beach, but sometimes we get so full, it kind of, it spills over. And then when space opens up, they may move back into that area.
So we do define the lifeguarded beach, it's posted.
Yep.
We don't do head counts.
Okay.
We decide how many lifeguards, how many chairs, and the amount of space that they can safely guard. Now, the number of people in that space can fluctuate wildly.
Yes. We're impacted a little more because we have the buses on the, and we also have Uber, which you don't allow drop-offs, and we can't really control that.
Actually, with Uber and taxis, they have to pay the individual fee.
$20?
No, the individuals
Oh,
in the
per
vehicle.
person, yeah. So if they drop off 4 people, it's, but they can't do it at the booth, right? They have to do it before the booth, or?
No, they actually will come into the booth, that's what we'll charge them. And I guess that is the one, Uber is just, starting out, and that's the one topic myself and my fee business manager need to discuss, how we're better gonna manage that. Because that may ultimately end up to be a transportation commercial use authorization permit. So we may go at that in a different direction, because it is a commercial business operating in the park, so, but we need to look at national policy about that.
I'm going to follow, so for those who have the commercial authorization, and I'm going to bring a party, I have my 20-person van, and you said that they are, through that company, they charge $5 per person?
That's what we're gonna ask, that's gonna be our management fee, so they're gonna pay a $300 commercial use application fee, $300. And then at the end of the year, when they have to fill out their audit, so they have to tell us how many people they transported, what their gross receipt was, et cetera, then it'll be a $5 per person charge for how many people they brought to that particular location.
And that's basically on a honor system, because you really, unless you feel that this person's not telling you the truth, you're familiar with them, and they're saying they dropped 2 people off a trip, and it's not happening that way. But pretty much what they tell you, you're going to go with.
Pretty much, because a lot of the buses or commercial operations, for example, Arts Dune Tours,
Right.
they want to operate within the National Seashore, and they want to operate in other national park sites. They don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize that commercial use permit, because the National Park Service, we're pretty small. And there's a program manager out of Washington for commercial use authorizations, and they have the pulse on a lot of these things, so.
And so now with the Uber, if the Uber pulls up and it has 4 people, you're going to charge them $40. It's $10 a person.
Right now, we are, yes.
Yeah, but that's something you're going to think about.
But just to reiterate, these policies are set at the national level.
I understand. I'm not
So we-
saying, I'm just saying whatever the policy is. I'm
We
not
implement
asking
them.
who's- I understand
And
that.
the road-based commercial use authorization is fairly new.
Right.
So we can't give you a lot of history on that one, or how it's implemented or how it goes.
How do you deal with the pickups on the end? When people are leaving the beach, they call Uber. Do they drive in and sit and wait for their passengers, or?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer to that right now. I'll have to find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a number of people dedicated to cash management each day and week?
Yes, let me just capture the Uber pickup. You're talking about transporting cash from the fee booth? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Well, for all of your beaches,
Oh, yeah, we have our fee business manager, we have another supervisory fee employee, all of our fee collectors collect money, our law enforcement operation is very involved in not the collection of money, but transferring the money, transporting the money. Yeah, so it's again, like Kathy's saying, very strict according to policy, and it's done every day a certain way.
Is
and
your parking?
Lots of audits. I audit it. Region comes in and audits. Washington comes to the park and audits. AOC. There's a lot of people watching the process, which you need. It's, throughout the National Park Service, a lot of money.
Is your parking cash only?
No, we accept credit cards.
No debit cards?
No debit cards,
Okay.
no checks, credit cards, cash.
Dale?
This might not be directly related to parking or beaches, but does the park have any information on what percentage of the people who visit the park are coming to it for the first time? I mean, I think we're thinking about people
Very
who come-
difficult to establish that. We do track visitation, but it's very difficult for us to hone in on very specific information within that tracking, because most of that tracking is done through traffic counters. And where we have major facilities, like a visitor center, we can track the numbers in and out the door, but we do a survey that's managed, again, at the national level, but we do it locally every year, which gives us a little bit of information about individuals and what they learn when they're here, what they liked and didn't like, what do they think of the facilities, the state of the facilities. I don't know if there's a question on there about, is this your first time, or are you a return visitor? So we can check and see what the level of detail is in those statistics, but I don't think we have that number. We could probably identify anecdotally some of the trends because we have people who've worked here for over 20 years.
The reason I'm asking is, I've been in 2 situations dealing with visitors in the summers, and I think we get used to the people that come all the time, or they have second homes here, or they always rent here. But there are, it seems, an increasing number of people who are totally clueless. They know they're on Cape Cod, not sure whether they're in Wellfleet, don't really know much, if anything, about the seashore, or necessarily where it is, or how it operates, or what's the connection, which brings me back to Mr. Hort's suggestion about some sort of an app that would provide some guidance, at least about the beaches and the parking, because, it's phenomenal how people who, they may have been coming to Yarmouth, for instance, for 5 years, but they're coming up here for the first time, and they just don't have a clue.
Yeah, we have a lot of information to support visitors on our website. So we try to duplicate a lot of this information in different ways, because not everybody goes to the website. A lot of people get that information when they stop at the visitor center. They're face-to-face people.
Are the number of lots at each beach posted on the website to show people the size of them?
No,
Yes, they
I
are.
don't think the number is.
The number of spaces is on your website.
That's good to know.
Actually, it's a
So
good thing.
we duplicate, right, we're pretty active on social media, and we also do a print publication every summer. And we try to preempt or educate a lot of visitors about the difference between a town beach and a national seashore beach,
Right.
so that they're not surprised. They understand there are going to be some beaches where only town residents can park. So we do try to impart that information as well. It helps everyone.
Okay.
Or that if they're buying a parking sticker at your beach, it isn't going to necessarily transfer over at
Correct.
LeCount or
Yep.
Newcomb Hollow or something like that, so that they're not like,
Yeah, the orientation function that we try to do is huge for first-timers, returnees, anything that's changed in the park, where we have construction going on, new facilities, closed areas of the park. So we try to duplicate it in many different ways for different types of people and the way they learn.
Do you think you provide many referrals to Wellfleet? Like when your lots are full, do the people suggest try Wellfleet, or?
Yes and no. I mean, I think we know that everyone's in the same situation in terms of capacity during
Right.
the busy weeks of the summer. If anything, I think our interpretive staff would suggest getting out earlier in the day, deciding to come later in the day, those kinds of things, because we're very careful about not adding to where we know there's already over subscribing to lots for beaches, ponds, for instance. So we try to give people the information that will help them have a great visit and not get frustrated.
Good.
What do you regard as your biggest problem with beachgoers?
Problem for us or for them?
Get
For you.
Rowdiness, drinking,
you.
or
Those ones.
trash.
Well, yeah, I would think public safety, you know, we're always worried about rip tides and shore breaks and strong currents and, you know, getting themselves in trouble. Getting lost. We have a handful of separated parties at each beach, children, elderly with Alzheimer's.
Injuries.
Oh,
We do have a lot of, we have, first aid, injuries, significant medical situations, cardiacs.
I-
But as far as like problems, certainly trash, leaving, we do permit fires at our beaches. And if somebody leaves a fire unattended, and then somebody in the morning comes along and there's a hot coal and they get stepped on, that's an issue.
So your lifeguards have radio communication
Oh,
with you?
yeah, we have radio, cell phones, and satellite phones. Yeah.
I know you're part of the shark study that all the other towns are
Yeah.
participating in.
Yeah.
Do you think by this summer you'll have the call boxes or what have you installed?
Yes.
Okay. But you already have satellite phones at work on the beach?
Well, satellite phones are interesting no matter where in the world that you use them because they're not a cell phone and they actually have to hit a satellite. So we do not use those for emergencies. The lifeguards use those to call the headquarters dispatch and report that they're on duty, what flag is flying. So it's more of an administrative tool. They have police radios that call our 911 dispatch in Boston, and they get on the radio just like a police officer, and they call in that emergency. And then, of course, we'll have the emergency call boxes. But the satellite phones, they're not perfect, and they're really just used for administrative purposes.
Are they very expensive to operate, do you know?
We pay $100 per 77 minutes. We get a card. And the satellite phones we're using, they're called iStat. And I cannot remember the cost of those phones.
If Suzanne might know about that.
She might, or she can just email me and I can send her the information. Yeah.
So I want to go back to your question one more time about biggest problems. I think Leslie hit on the number one concern when we have millions of people coming here in a short period of time, and that's public safety. I would say the other thing that's at the top of our list and related to the mission is the protection of the resources, because we have to pay very, very close attention to endangered species and the critical habitats that we have here. So a lot of our attention, in our science division, in the law enforcement and visitor and resource protection division, is protecting and sustaining the natural resources and the cultural resources that are here. So those are kind of our two, it's a dual mission for the National Park Service, but those are the things that we spend most of our energies on and our planning and our summer operation.
Have you ever entertained any discussion about providing residents with preferred parking at the beaches?
No. It would actually conflict, except for the agreement we have with the ESTM, that would actually conflict with the management of national park resources.
Roughly how many spaces are at that lot that the East End people can use? Is it, that doesn't, no, need aggregate numbers.
I have the numbers sitting right on my desk.
Okay, I'll call you.
But that park is small.
Yeah.
Very small, and it's not many.
Okay,
Yeah, but I can, if you need that number.
like the
just have
Beachcomber, no. Is it just like the Beachcomber, the parking lot in front of the
Oh,
Beachcomber?
Interesting enough, I don't go to the
Oh,
Beachcomber,
my
so I
God, don't talk,
I know the Beachcomber.
I'm sorry.
It's as many as the beachcombers.
There aren't that many spaces.
Okay.
I mean, we might be
Like
talking about
six?
20,
All right, yeah.
20 spaces,
Yeah,
25 spaces. And it's, you know, it turns over.
Yeah.
So when those spaces are full, does it mean that Eastham residents don't go to the beach? No. They go to the Little Creek parking area and take the shuttle, or they visit another beach.
Right.
Maybe we'll have our next meeting with you at the Beachcomber.
Sounds good.
Dan has keys.
It's a little cold down there.
I have just one,
Go ahead.
if I can, just
Then
one
we
more
should
on
wrap it
the,
up.
on the shark question. So I know that it's kind of early since we've had a fatality and really a bad accident
Don't push it away.
in Truro. But there have been, all of our beaches have experienced sightings, witnessing some poor seal, get nabbed, or having to close the beach because there's been a sighting for an hour or, whatever, till the, so have people, anecdotally, I'm sure you haven't a statistic on this, but have your lifeguards, have your people at the visitor center, has there been discussion about the sharks and concern about it from visitors as they're within your establishment? If they're talking to you and like, I didn't know that you had sharks here, and I don't know if I ever, I know they're anecdotal questions, but has there, maybe even particularly at those visitor centers and stuff?
So I can't speak to the visitor centers, maybe Kathy can, but I know when our lifeguards are on duty on the beaches, they get asked questions all the time, which is what we want, right?
Right.
We want to, and the Seashore does a really good job getting education material out to the public. I am sure we have people asking at the visitor center about sharks. We show our shark safety video at our visitor center.
Good.
Yeah, and in our trip planner, we have a lot of information about the sharks, and we have a brand-new rat card that we pass out at the visitor center, too. So it's not a conversation that we shy away from. We actually are very much out in front of that. So I'm hoping more and more and more conversations happen about the sharks.
I have one other question on this, and this is really not about parking, but since we have them here, and it's about the shark management. You've heard about these sonic buoys, whatever they're called.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Okay, so we had a big meeting here right after this episode happened. I think it was in February, the first big one. And there were people from Australia here, and they have this product now. If it were me and I had the product, I'd be giving it to people saying, try this. Is this the most unbelievable thing? Now you can pay me for it. However, is there a sense in the government mind of Park Recreation that in providing some sort of alert system, or if this indeed sort of detected some large animal other than a whale, smaller than a whale, bigger than a seal, or whatever his pattern is, does that set one up for liability? I mean, are businesses saying, we want to put this out in the water? I know we have, there's ocean management restrictions and these sort of things. I mean, these things just don't, I'm just talking about people coming here with businesses and saying, I have the magic bullet for your problem. Let's
I'm
put
sure
this.
you know that there are lots and lots of people who want to help and assist Cape Cod figure out
Right.
how to address public safety and how to learn more about sharks, the ocean habitat, technology that might provide some assistance here. The superintendent has been involved in all of the meetings when we've had briefings, with all of the towns. He's very much engaged in that process. And I have heard him say that, we're open, we will assess anything that's viable that's out there. So I think we're just beginning to see many of these proposals come forward. And we haven't
Somewhat
seen all
relate-
of them yet.
Right.
So I think he's very much part of the conversation. I think he's got to look at, again, agency policy and
Right.
some of these proposed solutions. And, we'll go forward as part of this team that, partners to look across all of these issues. I mean, he's very much engaged and open.
Somewhat related to parking and driving to and from, do you have a no alcohol policy?
You can drink alcohol on the beaches, just not glass. You can't have a glass bottle, but you can drink
You
alcohol.
allow alcohol?
We do.
And that
Okay.
hasn't been a problem. That's probably the least of your problems.
Well, sometimes there's parties that get a little out of control after hours on all of our beaches.
Yes,
Because we
right.
do help Wellfleet Police Department, and they help us. But during the day,
Yeah.
no.
More
Well,
people tromping on.
We're running through the clock here.
Just one quick question.
Go ahead.
In regards to ticketing, do you ticket and do you collect many of your tickets? I mean, is there a good collection rate?
No, if we issue a ticket, that money goes to, a pot of money. We never see it.
Okay.
So most times we educate. If it's egregious, we'll issue a ticket for
Handicap
various.
or something,
Yeah, various crimes. But no, we don't reap the benefits of the money collected.
Are people paying the fines?
If they don't pay, they go to court. And we have a federal magistrate, and he hears our cases in Hyannis.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Well, that was excellent. Anything else
Yeah.
from people on the panel here? So, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. We're
the,
happy to come back if there are follow-up questions.
Oh, well, thank you.
We're, we'd like to see Suzanne, and if you want to experience the tram operation, you're welcome to.
I think that
All right.
sounds like a fun day, a fun morning.
You
It
can
could be a
pack
learning
A little
experience.
tour.
Pack a picnic lunch.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
again.
Yep,
Great, thank you.
Thank you
twice
so
the
much.
amount of time I thought, but I told you there'd be some questions here.
Oh, it's just always fun to be with us.
Yep.
What do you want to do next, Benny? Because I'm going to run out of video time, I guess, but we can go
I
as long as
don't
we want.
know.
With Bruce here, do you want to focus on that?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do. I want, basically the survey subcommittee there. I think it'll get into everything,
Okay.
so.
Bruce, which one do you want to pull up? We're going to pull up, do you want to pull up the,
Well, while Wayne's doing that, just make sure everybody's aware, the taxpayer survey has been submitted to the printer, and I don't know the status of that. We also have a taxpayer survey, which Wayne and Bruce Ketcher, who is in our audience and has been basically drafted into this committee.
Sure
So, but that's there. We have a couple of other surveys that are in process. We have the business survey, as we call it, and we also have the survey for permit buyers that's going to occur at the beach office when they buy their permits, so. Wayne, I'm going to let you decide,
Copy of what I'm going to show you on the screen in case you want to take it home with you.
okay? You might drag that microphone over if you're going to talk.
Thought we shortened this. Oh, there's a couple here.
Well, yeah, there is something else. We had a review of correspondence, which I've always put on there, and we've had some correspondence. As of yesterday, we started receiving emails, and I will forward these things on. I think the way it's working, it can be done, and you'll be able to see all the comments. But they started coming in yesterday, so it's all fairly recent. I thought I would just read them through so you get the whole drift of it. They're not very long, fortunately, because I'm not a very good reader, too. But the first one is from Bruce Drucker, before breakfast time at 5:48 a.m. I understand that consideration is being given to prohibiting waiting in line to enter Newcomb Hollow Beach parking lot and to accommodate beachgoers with a shuttle bus that will originate at Whitegrass parking lot or some other parking lot. For reasons outlined below, I do not believe this is a good idea, but I want to take a moment to recognize the Parking Task Force is thoughtfully engaging in its work with a fact-based analysis and critical thinking. In my opinion, the line at Newcomb Hollow is an informal control for overcrowding of the beach that is in proximity to the parking lot. I first started coming to Cape Cod in the 1940s and started enjoying Wellfleet's beaches in 1963. Many years ago, Newcomb Hollow Beach was larger, and more significantly, folks showed up with blankets and/or beach chair and perhaps an umbrella. Now many visitors import their playrooms, games and toys into the beach in a variety of shelters. I believe that a shuttle bus system will contribute to making what's left of the beach even more crowded and Coney Island-like. It will be counterproductive. So that's the first one. So the second one is from Della Spring. It has been brought to my attention that you are considering a shuttle bus to Newcomb Hollow Beach next summer, so that there will no longer be a line of cars waiting to enter the full lot. I'm sure you have many issues to consider. However, if you're interested in feedback, I would like to say that I prefer to have at least the option to wait in line. I imagine it would be shorter than the past because there's also a shuttle running. The next one is from a Susan Coptis. It has been brought to my attention that there is some consideration for changing the beach parking regulations at Newcomb Hollow Beach. That is, that waiting for a parking space to free up will no longer be allowed, and a shuttle bus is being proposed. The idea of a shuttle bus has many negative ramifications. Number one, cost to purchase and maintain the buses. Number two, frequency and adequate drivers. Number three, insurance. Number four, if there's a need to leave the beach for any reason, sick or injured child, thunderstorm, previous appointment, etc., we would be left at the mercy of the bus driver and the schedule. Being Wellfleet, not all events happen on schedule. As the day progresses, this is number five. As the day progresses, the parking lot may become less full. What are the options available for those with cars parked at the shuttle lot? Number six was, where would the shuttle bus parking lot be? What happens when that lot is full? The current system of waiting patiently for a space at Newcomb has worked for many years. There's absolutely no reason to change it. Lastly, by providing a shuttle bus, will it result in even more people using Newcomb Hollow? Thank you for the opportunity to voice my opinion. We have been coming for Wellfleet for more than 40 years and are a summer resident and taxpayer on Long Pond.
From our missing committee
You'll think that a lot of these are. The next is from a John Tansey. I'm a longtime resident of Newcomb Hollow Beach, and Newcomb Hollow Beach has always been my favorite beach for many reasons. I never had an issue with wanting to come if I came. I never had an issue with waiting if I came late in the day, and I firmly believe a shuttle service would be a drastic mistake to the integrity and, more importantly, increase the population crowd with a bus constantly dropping more and more people off. This would call for more lifeguards, increased bathroom usage or not, and does increase the crowds and the lines, and just to use the ocean toilet. Totally change the character of one of the town's most cherished beaches. The beach is serene. Let's keep it that way. Let's not overpopulate it with our beautiful town and give away its soul like so many other beach communities have done, and all have regretted those decisions. I think I'm down to two left here. This next one is from Claudia Drucker. Kind Parking Task Force. I may have been born in another state before, but somehow in July of 1968, my life and love of Newcomb Hollow Beach began. Dragging our children up and down the ever-changing dunes, saw them grow and return with their own children, definitely recall waiting in lines as far back as the 70s, and still always managed to capture our devotion and wait. Both our daughters, while in college during the 80s, also were beach attendants, still telling great stories of irate tourists, silly questions, and not too clever plots to hold parking spaces. That is Wellfleet Beaches, and Truro for that matter. One daughter also worked at Long Nook and two other Truro beaches. They valued those experiences as character building and resumes skills. To their post-school careers have also benefited by the daily challenges remaining firm, etc. So the issues were always present. The dunes have changed. The lot size keeps changing, but people who have stickers love a beach and take their chances. So hopefully, when Herring Cove reopens, the Newcomb's numbers will lessen, but some Hmong riptides, wind, and flies also affect where people go. Hopefully, as before, nature will take its course. And I will see you at Newcomb's Beach this summer. The last one is from a Kurt Smith. The shuttle is a great idea, but do not eliminate the waiting for a freed up space. So that's our correspondence.
So, if I may add to this, there has been an email that was sent, and I cannot tell you who sent this, because it was sent to me by somebody who received it and didn't want to disclose their name. But it says, hi, there's a committee in town.
Microphone.
It says there's a committee in town that is looking into parking issues throughout the town. One area in particular concerns beach parking. Under discussion is a proposal for a shuttle bus once the Newcomb Hollow Beach is full. And I don't think we've ever discussed this, but if the shuttle plan is implemented, the current system of waiting in line would be eliminated. Now, that has never, we have never, number one, we don't have the power to say it would or it wouldn't, and I don't think we've ever said, I think we've talked about, would that be an issue coming down if there were cars parked? What were the complications? But, and recognizing that there was a complication with cars parked and if you chose to do the, anyway, so this is like, the rumors that go around, disinformation. No one would be allowed to wait in line for a space to open and be available. The parking lot would be used, the parking lot to be used would be White Crest or some other spot to be determined. The questionnaire regarding such beach parking will go out in the next tax bill. I would ask that if you prefer to have the option to wait in line, that you add a note saying that that's what you would rather have, and of course, if you support the shuttle, say that too. It just goes on in that regard. So
Well, I
obviously,
assume there
people
was
like
some-
waiting in line, and the only other thing I would add, that I would, if we were gonna just keep with the line and let people,
We have made that decision.
I know, it's really the selectmen's decision.
I guess,
But it should-
my question would be,
No idle.
why do people think this? I think
I know.
that's what the committee ought to think
Right.
about.
Why do people think what?
That we have actually made a proposal
Oh.
or are entertaining a proposal.
I don't know.
I don't
Is it
know.
because we've recommended nothing at this point?
Well, we've supported the kiosk, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
actually gets people out of a line and on into a parking lot.
Just ask one quick question.
Yeah.
Those correspondences were sent to you, where did they emanate
They
from?
come into the email box for the parking task force, and I got them this afternoon. I forgot to ask for them earlier in the day.
But there was no, this isn't from something they received, this is just something
Yes,
they
I'm
heard
sure
about a
they received
parking
this
task
email.
force, they know they can find it online, they found it and wrote a letter.
Yep.
Yeah,
as
I'm
far as-
sure
but
this
there
is an
must
It
email
have
says
been
it
that
some
at
went
the bottom
around.
of every one of our minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know, I just didn't know if we had,
There
if
must have
something,
been,
if they were like coming from,
there must
'cause I
have
know
been
that-
some stimulus to all of a sudden, starting early this morning.
There was one
or
person that
yesterday
made an
morning.
assumption, and they have now spread that among their
Right,
friends.
no, I get that.
Okay.
All right. We
On
now
to
have
surveys.
This is the online survey. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to go to the link yet, but this is what a person receiving the written survey and decides to do it electronically will see. And Bruce has done a phenomenal job and speedy for us too. I mean, we owe him great debt of it, and he'll be also working on, we'll bring one more on the merchant survey, we'll put online also. And it'll be comparable to this. So you have hard copies, but if you don't want to just run through it, Ken, right now it's in, what's it called? It's in a sort of test mode. I actually did fill it out one time thinking you had to answer each question, but you can just scan through it. It follows along exactly what I submitted to you, I think, with the exception of we had to reformat it in certain areas in order for it properly gather the data, and that's based on Bruce's recommendations. Do you want to talk about it, Bruce, at all? No? Okay. I think we've hit everything. We have the age question. How often do they go? This is where we had to change it up a little bit. And we've actually added a couple of more categories. Then we've gotten into, this is another way we changed it around, how many, rather than, we sort of get more specific. At your most seek first or second choice beach, when you have problems getting parking. And then the availability questions are here as well. It is anonymous. Yeah, it's anonymous is the point. As it is now, yeah. It is anonymous, and you can only fill it out once. If you try to fill it out a second time, it says you've already filled it out, because it goes from your IP address.
The data will all be recorded and it will be analyzed easily and.
Bruce, can you share, Mike?
Yeah. The data will be automatically analyzed. I mean, you tell it what kinds of analysis you want to do. And then people who have paper surveys will have to manually enter it, just like we're doing, you know, you would be taking it now. We'd have that. So that'll all be in there too.
Anybody have any questions about how we reformatted it?
Format looks great. I just have a question. What are we trying to, the questions 16 and 17 regarding the shuttle between Whitecrest and Cahoon, what are we trying to learn there?
Well, I mean, this was sort of trying to address the question that I think Will had, wasn't it, Denny, pretty much? Just trying to find, this is the Whitecrest. Oh, yeah, no.
The purpose of this question was to see what the awareness was
Yeah.
and the usage. Because I suspect a lot of people are not aware that there is a shuttle service from Whitecrest to Cahoon. And then to ask how often they used it. And this is to taxpayers, not to
Right,
everybody.
right.
So,
And then we get into the question that Will had asked about possibly, if we do a shuttle bus, we'll
Right.
sort of address the concern of these
Yeah.
folks. Are we shutting down the queues and things? But
Right.
we won't know that. I mean, if everyone says, we don't want a shuttle bus, why focus on it, you know? I mean,
Well, look, going to Newcomb, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if they want to,
it will, I think, be hard to make it work and make it cost-effective and run, because when everybody wants to leave at the end of the day, and there's only 2 buses,
well,
well, I thought one of the comment letter about a thunderstorm coming in or something.
yeah,
like
right,
that
yeah.
was- That's
that's,
gotta be a disaster.
that's the only thing that makes more sense to me, I mean, as far as an inconvenience. But,
Okay.
And we did add a question about technology. We worded it, rather than giving them the options, just said, do you want us to use some form of technology? And we're focusing something at the moment on the town's website, probably under the beaches area.
Please.
How many of these need to be returned and counted for this to be a valid survey?
Well, it's, this portion of the survey is going out to 3,700 people.
Dale, I think there's an answer to that that
Yeah.
I haven't given before, but anything after 20 is a valid survey. It's the question of how confident are you in the answers.
Right.
There's something called an alpha error and a beta error.
20%, you're saying?
No.
20.
When you go through it, I think the number used to be 23.
right,
After that, you've got a valid survey. Whether you got confidence in it or not is a different thing.
right, you can always figure a couple of percentages.
It's a population survey rather than a sample survey. So we're surveying everybody, all 3,700. So the sampling statistics don't really apply. Then it's a question, just like Denny said, of, well, it's really subjective. It's a judgment. How many do we feel confident in? Now, one way to do that is to see, well, what are the demographics? For example, if it's all just people who are under 30, well, we don't think that's representative. You know, even if there's 100 people who respond. So you'd have to look at the demographics too to see, does this accurately represent the population? And then you'll have more confidence in it, even if there's only 100 people who respond.
Okay.
Any more
Ready to-
questions about this? This will be going, with the tax bills being mailed, Dan, yet, or?
Today is the 20th, it'll probably be mailed within the week.
All right, well, we need a day's notice to shut down the site and cleanse it, so.
And so the thought is to make this site go active, and it would be a link on the homepage of the town's website, and people can go there to answer it, so.
So I have something to add to our surveys. So we had, you and I had played around with the last merchant survey, business survey. And then Bruce read that and gave some suggestions on maybe rewording some of those surveys, combining them a little bit. And I do think I eliminated one question altogether. The question was, how much time do you think your customers spend at other shops? And I'm thinking to myself, do I really know if I'm a shopkeeper? Do I know how much, you just came in and, so where are you going now, Danny? You gotta go here.
Let me tell you the motivation of that question.
Okay.
For me was,
Yeah,
we have a 2-hour limit in Wellfleet right now in the town center.
Mm-hmm.
If we find out that everybody's 15 or 20 minutes, do we need
an
to,
hour,
do we need to continue with 2 hours?
Right.
Can we change it during the day?
right.
So
You could
that
change
was
it
my
during the
motivation.
day and then maybe, at certain places.
It's a matter of collecting the data.
Yeah, okay, because there's gonna be some places that are gonna go for lunch at Winslow's, and it's gonna be more than, or whatever other place may be downtown. So anyway, I did redraft it, and this is the draft. I did give a copy to Bruce, and I'm gonna give you all a copy. So this is the front page cover, but it goes in the back. So it's still pretty short. I think it's a little shorter. We can put that question back. If you have the original one, which was sent to us all electronically, you can compare it. If not, you can take this and I can actually send this to you once I get home, but I can also send you the one that it's compared to the original.
Yeah, red line.
So I just want to let you know that, but I want you to take a look at these, see if you agree with these questions, if you think there's a better question, a missing question, and then we can get the subcommittee to, so let me,
I think that's coming, we're planning to put that out in April sometime, I think, Denny, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I took a look, I do have some comments, so
okay.
verbally or?
Sure, you can, well, if you want to do it, if people want to hear it while I'm passing.
It's too long to do that.
Okay. Okay, then we should have a little subcommittee meeting again. We can schedule that here maybe, and we can go from there. But if any of the group has something to add, suggest, rewrite, say, I don't understand this question, something like that, that would be great.
Did you keep the count in there about the question in there about zoning bylaws?
Yes.
Thank you.
One concern I had with the
Worded
original,
it, so you might want to reword it again, but I did do it with a zoning. I said per zoning bylaw, are you required to have,
It's fine.
For this
The answer's
and that.
yes.
and how many, yes, and then,
I know, but I think that some of my motivation was that we've been fairly relaxed about requiring parking spaces per the zoning bylaws, and that's part of our problem. And so we might want to have the regulatory committees not be so relaxed when they approve permits.
And I'm going to make a suggestion to administration that when we allow everybody to sit there in their cars in that line, no idling.
plus it's a 5-minute idling law anyhow in the state.
I just have one observation. Would it be possible to shorten this introduction, because it doesn't
Yes.
even look like a survey at
That
this
I haven't
point?
dealt with. That hasn't, it is too wordy and too long, so we will cut that down. And if you have any, you'd like to do it, give it a crack, Mr. Donovan, don't kill, don't hesitate. No, I didn't pass them down, so they can just pass them down, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So Sheila, can we take these home and be ready to approve it in the next meeting?
Yes, I hope so. Well, we have 2 more weeks? 2 weeks to our next meeting?
Yeah.
We have a subcommittee meeting in between? Sure, we can have it all done
Okay.
for approval and go live. Action.
The one survey that I was hoping we might be able to get to approve today was the one on the beach sticker office activity. Wayne, do you have anything did you,
Online, you mean?
on Survey Monkey or anything for that?
Not on
one?
SurveyMonkey, no. That has not been put on, that's not going to go on SurveyMonkey. The
Okay.
beach sticker, right? yeah.
Okay, right,
Yeah.
okay. The one when
Oh,
people
that we're
go
gonna
in.
hand out.
Yeah, yep. You've had it before, and it's called, at the top of the page, it's called Beach Permit, Beach Parking Permit Holder Survey. And the idea is to capture the people that are not taxpayers in town, and when they come in for a beach permit, and when
Right.
they're coming in on vacation or whatever.
I would move that we approve this survey as written. Looks fine to me.
Second.
I have email addresses. Do we ask for them?
Could be optional.
We can make it optional.
I just think the more we collect email addresses from people, the more we can outreach during the
During the summer.
year. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that way, if there's changes and, yeah.
yeah, I guess,
All right.
if we were gonna say, you know, our policies changed, and if you're coming here, if anybody wanted to know that, they could put their email down. It's not a mandatory
You
thing.
sign up for the town administrator's newsletter too, right? I mean, a lot of people want to stay in touch with what's happening and. Oh, sure. I just think that a lot of people want to stay in touch throughout the winter and more we are able to communicate with them, so.
Okay. Would you accept that amendment, Dale?
Sure.
I'll put it on here somewhere. Any other on this survey? Wayne?
Nope.
Did this get changed? I'm not sure if I'm looking at the final one.
I know you may not be.
Is this,
Is it in this package, Denny?
is this the
Yeah, it's in here.
final one?
That's,
Here, this is the final one, so you can take it and look at it next to yours. So this is the,
Bookstore's back open again, huh?
I know.
Yes, it is.
I'm glad I'm only
Sorry.
dealing with one.
Why I try to use the title here.
So you helped with the
Okay.
we'll,
beach?
we'll get it. Yeah, but it's not going online, so you don't have to,
Right, right.
yeah,
Oh, that one.
the one that's not going online, yeah.
Right.
Yep. So that's just going to be handed out.
I think we're in pretty good shape personally, but I've got vested interest, so listen to others.
Okay.
Any
Just
further discussion?
approved?
All in favor of the beach parking permit holder survey? Aye. Whatever. Any opposed? One piece of business done. Thank you.
Just briefly back to the business survey for a second. I just handed you a Excel spreadsheet, and with the good work of Dan, we were able to determine who on the Chamber of Commerce is a member, or who on the merchant's business license is a chamber member, picked up their email addresses, and also picked up the email addresses from Town Hall. And of the 168-odd business license holders, there's about 40 of them we do not have email addresses for. So the option is, come back next meeting, if you know these people, give us an address or email it to me. And if we still have, and then we could determine whether, some of them probably wouldn't answer the survey or don't have to, because it's like, you know, the Wellfleet Drive-In really probably is not gonna have a parking problem with us downtown, but they may, who knows, but. So of those 40, probably 20 you could say, well, they're not really in a zone that we're worried about. But we're trying to do as much as we can by email, so it goes into the system automatically.
So we would give them the survey site address. I'd suggested to Wayne that we not post it on the town website.
Right.
but That they communicate it through email. And the other comment I have is that if we don't get them, I don't see why we couldn't spit out a bunch of address labels
Yeah, we can do that.
and send them to them.
Yeah.
Especially if it's 40, it's not like it's 1,000.
No, it's just, you know,
The other comment, Wayne, is that I noticed on the full listing, there were some people who were several different names.
right, like Wellfleet Marine has 3 different licenses for 3 different operations,
So
so
we
we
only
probably,
need to send that once.
right. We could cull those out, I guess, when we, because we have to paste these email addresses into a website, because I don't think the list that this is coming from is in like Constant Contact or anything like that, so Jenny and I have
It's in
tried it,
Excel.
and you can fairly easily just paste the whole column into a BCC in a email.
This is just a statistic of the people who, the amount of people that are
Microphone.
if we take the number of people who have a license to operate some business, and those, so do we have that number, and how many of those people are registered with the chamber? I'm just curious as to how many people sign up for the chamber.
Yeah, it's, okay, no, all right. There are 22,
I'm
Okay.
glad you brought up the issue. I have an opinion on that, too.
Okay.
And my opinion is that I think we ought to be using the town's listing of
Right, we're not-
businesses.
I agree.
yeah, we're not going to use the
Not-
chamber because
not
they
the
have,
chamber.
they have less than half of the business licenses as members.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. I don't need an exact number. That's good. Thank you. No, I agree, because that way you're getting everyone.
And probably, I don't know if we plan to do another survey next year, we'll somehow retain the database so that if we have to send out a second backup survey, it won't be as hard as next time. But I don't know how long that took you to do the comparison, but that was quite a bit of work.
Not too long.
Okay, good. Excellent.
All right. So are we done on business survey as far
I'm
as
done
we
with
can
that. I
go today?
we'll,
I think we're done. You all have a copy of it. You can take a look at it. That's the latest draft, and not the final, because we still have room to, if you want to send anything, we're going to have a subcommittee meeting, so we can
You-
make any changes. If you want to send them to me, I'll make sure I bring them to the subcommittee, and we should probably schedule a subcommittee.
you want to do that while you're here, Bruce? Yeah.
Okay, I can
What do you
too.
suggest?
Well,
Jenny, do you have any particular time, and
Thank you, Dan.
how much time should we do? Next week,
I-
later this week, this weekend?
Let's do that offline.
Okay, good.
I
Okay.
want to get through
Done.
this meeting.
All right, let's get going.
Yep. Marina survey, any update on that, Joe?
We have 180 surveys submitted to date.
Wow.
Wow.
And I anticipate a good number more because in April is a time when we usually take in a good number of leases.
Okay.
What-
And you and Will are going to have fun collating that stuff?
We're going to take all of them when the Comer opens and work on
yeah,
I can
and
help with
go,
those
kind of
too
go
if
into a
it's
coma.
Data entry.
I don't want to make too much work for Bruce, but we didn't want them to take the survey electronically, but is it possible to set up this Marina survey as a separate survey so we can manually input it and manipulate the data online?
He wants to drink and do it.
We can talk about it, but,
The benefit of that is that you could, do some cross-tabbing and all that
Right.
sort of stuff.
Quick
so,
analysis.
yeah.
okay.
Are you saying that you've already sent this out and you've gotten 180 back?
Yeah, went out with their license.
They went out in the mail with the
Yeah.
leases.
Right. So you,
They
already got
returned the
half of
lease
them
with
back?
their check and the survey.
that's amazing. That's very good. I hope we
Over
get a well of a
50%?
response.
We have 450 voters.
Well, that's still,
Pretty good.
that's almost half. You're going into almost half range. That's very good.
Well, it's only been 3 or 4 weeks, so.
When
I have a lot to say.
when do they have to submit them by? Is it the end of the month, end of May or something? When are they supposed to have their license?
The leases are May 15.
Okay.
Final payment.
And at that point, you're at risk of losing your slip if you don't pay? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Joe. We did the correspondence, and as I say, I'll send those on to everybody,
Okay. And I'll send you mine.
and that works out well. Outreach, I always get to this stage of the meeting, I'm burned out, but I know we need to do some more. Obviously, people are responding. Joe's experience is indicative, I think.
Word's getting out.
So, Wayne, you were going to talk to non-resident taxpayers. Have you,
Yeah, I've reached out to them, actually became a member.
I actually thought of doing that.
Yeah,
myself.
it's, it's, yeah, huh?
Talk to a resident.
I know, but as of, until, whatever. You can get the newsletter by paying $10, so.
Right.
And then also there's the Wellfleet Homeowners Association too, but they both,
Seashore homeowners.
Seashore Homeowners Association, right. They both have their own website, and I think once the survey's out and in the mail, or we'll make sure their next newsletter makes sure people, the taxpayers, look at their mail to fill it out or fill it out online.
Okay. Any other candidates for briefing? This briefing was excellent today.
Yeah, fabulous.
It was twice as long as I expected, sorry.
No, but they had a lot of good information.
Yeah.
Have you talked to people from other towns?
Well, we've talked to.
The question was, have we talked to other towns? The answer is yes, to a degree, through Suzanne and others.
Right. I spoke to Wellfleet, and we have some information from Provincetown.
Yep.
Falmouth.
Falmouth, yep.
I don't know if you got it, Bruce, but I found a study that the Cape Cod Commission did 2-3 years ago for P-Town, about, not only about parking, but it was about people, how they get in and out and when they go and all that kind of stuff. It's something we might consider for the future, just probably for Ocean View Drive and downtown. But at this point, we don't have enough, until we have this raw data, we can't even determine whether it's worth doing.
Joe?
As part of the dredging effort and letter writing campaign a few years ago, we learned that the Part-Time Residents Association has a good database and a very active one, and people seem to read it and respond to it. So I'm wondering if we want to entertain the thought of working with them to designate later on, June or so, July, designate a specific hearing date where we encourage them to come. They had me do a presentation on the harbor a couple of years ago, and this place was packed. They really,
Every one of their meetings is packed.
Was it at their annual meeting in July and August that you spoke?
it
or-
was their annual meeting in July.
Yeah.
But they do respond, and they're interested, and they like to be engaged in everything that is going on in town. So one thought would be that we could designate a date,
Okay.
for them to come.
Would you prefer to have them come to us or us go to them?
I would prefer that they come here
Okay.
and present on the record, what they have to say.
Good point.
However, on the other hand, just to, be contrary, all right, so I just received a letter from Susan Reverby, who is the president, current president, because I run the forum, and last year we did a joint forum together on, I think it was the taxing on rentals and second homeowners. Oh, we were going to change the second homeowner status, and that's what it was about. So she wrote to me actually just today and said, we're thinking of doing, we'd like to do a joint. And so, she had like a list of things. Like we could talk from this, sharks, everything from eelgrass to sharks or everything in between. I didn't even think of the parking. However, they're the ones that get everybody in this room. I mean, they call a meeting, and even if it isn't the annual meeting, I would say maybe 15 less might be at the regular meetings. So, and I think that we would want to, by then, hopefully have some information that we're going to be sharing, and it would be good to have a forum at some point once we start gathering data and saying, this is what we're submitting to the selectmen so that those great minds can make big decisions. But, this is what we found out. What do you think? And what have been your issues? I mean, we can kind of set it up before, but however we do it, I think that there's going to be more interest from the from the non-resident taxpayers, because several have said to me, without prompting or asking, we might not live here year-round, but if you took every summer that I've spent here for the last 50 years, I've lived here more than you. So I said, and I know it's so much more than you. I mean, particularly me, I'm not from here forever. So, so I think it's a good point, and they do care about the town, and they do want to make sure everything is good, so I think it's important that we do it, and whichever way, whoever can make sure the crowd is here.
Well,
Wouldn't their comments be captured in these surveys?
Yeah, they're all taxpayers, so
Yeah, so they'll have something to say.
they'll have
What
some.
about other organizations in town? There's a new shellfish organization, shouldn't they
Just
be?
say, I don't think,
We're gonna
Shouldn't
be-
there
no,
be
they're,
a-
they're a lot, I think they're all tax,
They're
you know, they're mainly
shellfish.
residents here. It's the shell fishermen that, so it's mainly, I
I
think.
mean,
that-
I realize the
Yeah, they'll get hit by the-
taxpayers, it's a
yeah.
very good group. They do have the best interests of the town at heart.
Definitely.
But you're sort of saying, we're going to talk to you, but then what other groups are you going to talk to that might already have had their information captured? That's all. If we were making a presentation to them about what we've done, that's perfectly good.
I think when,
Thing to do.
when the harbor master was in, he gave us input on what he thought he basically said the fishermen don't have much of any problems, but we do think.
That's,
One of the
No, but we
things that,
reported-
you know
So-
when somebody else is talking for you.
We can, you can come to our meeting.
Yeah,
Did
we
you know they elected me president?
Yes.
So
Yeah, we
You
should
can
invite
come.
the shell.
But I think that I think we're okay right now. We addressed it a couple meetings ago, so.
one of the things I think we've all agreed on at the beginning was the need for information, the need for input. And I think we know that come June, everybody's here, you know. All the categories we've hit upon, June and July are here. And I think we maybe should devote some time as that approaches to doing some outreach work to get everybody from every segment we've identified the opportunity to come in and to participate.
So I always love, engaging with people one-on-one. And I think it's also a great opportunity for us to, have ourselves or people who are interested in doing such things, which is usually young kids. You take surveys, walking around the parking lot, at the beaches. How are you enjoying yourself? I'm an ambassador from Wellfleet. Just want to make sure you stay. Would you mind answering a few questions so we can help make your stay even better? People love that. You won't believe how many people want to talk. I mean, I've knocked on a lot of doors, and it's amazing how many
That's more of a
people
chamber thing, I think.
open it up.
Because once they're on the beach, they've already parked.
Well, it is, but I mean, in a parking lot, it might not be a bad idea, though, or, while people are waiting in line at the, I know they're gonna be getting their survey, we might wanna have, how, when they have, are you still a resident of Wellfleet, your resident status, you can go in a town hall and just stick it in a little box, not have to go to someone, here's my letter back.
Well, surveys are going to be dropped in a box at the,
They will be, there will
yeah.
be a box at the
yeah.
beach.
My plan,
Okay.
whether
I just wanna make sure
everybody
we
agrees or not, I originally thought we would have, and I'll be glad to make it, sort of a board that's sort of on the stairs that has 6 or 7 clipboards with the surveys and, pen and stuff, so they have something to do while they're in line.
Right,
The original thought was to give it to them when and if they got the sticker, and that, so most likely they're going to throw it away then. I mean,
I know, they might not have had their experience yet to
Yeah.
comment.
well,
The written survey, I think is fine, but I do think that people would welcome the opportunity to be here in person
Yeah.
and to articulate perhaps what they cannot or are unwilling to put into a survey.
Right, in writing.
Well, I
if they
think
aren't-
the idea-
if they aren't willing to put it in writing, are they going to want to be on video, I guess? Maybe we have to have
Well, I think there are two approaches. I understand Joe's approach of having them come to us so that it is documented and
Right.
all that. The other approach is maybe a little more relaxed of us going to them and getting as many people as we can there. I, for one, don't want to over-survey myself.
Yeah,
And I think we've got a very broad coverage with what we've attempted to do here. So I don't know how many more surveys we need to do.
I don't think so. I don't think we have to do any, and I think we can announce that there are surveys going out, so to look for them, and their people's feedback is gonna be important. And then I think we should consider doing a forum and saying to all this disinformation that's beginning to start.
the other thing I thought of is, now the tax bills are going out in a week, should we approach the local newspapers to do a little blurb on what we're doing, so people.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I saw that in the paper, well, I'll have to look at my, because a lot of people, it'd be, since, the tax bill, a lot of people don't open it. If their bank pays it or
No,
something.
they're always looking for some,
Yeah.
the
And I always
Times
go
is always
online,
looking
so
for
I
a little
don't-
story, and
Yeah,
Ed Miller will put it in there.
yeah, just, maybe just summary of what our.
Still being recorded. Yeah.
Maybe that would also, we could address the concerns in those letters that are not true, that we're not considering a shuttle bus and all this kind of stuff, so.
Well,
Well,
we've
you-
discussed it, but we haven't made any decisions.
Want me to invite a couple of press people to the next meeting?
Sure. And we could start with just the summary of your items on the agenda, and then so they don't have to wait for the whole meeting.
Hey, Ed, and
Go
I
ahead,
have a
Bruce.
question. Is there a time scheduled where the recommendations of this task force are going to be presented to the select board?
No, we were given a 3-year term.
well,
We
it's,
want to let
I was the
2009.
one who suggested it'd be over in a year,
but this is our,
Been,
we just started in, like, late
Maybe
September.
August was the
months.
first meeting, August or September.
So
was
we
the-
didn't have a summer, we don't have nobody collected the information we were looking for, to do something. So now this summer, we're trying to get people's habits and likes and
Information.
dislikes and
well,
so.
to start.
I'm new to government, but I think setting a date now, like the fall or,
Oh,
September 4th or something would do well rather than let it go 3 years.
no,
Oh, no, we're not
no,
doing-
we are going
Just want to
to,
get at least one summer's worth of.
yeah, we just want to get some information and then be able to present that to our own town people, get their feedback, and then say, so far, this is what we've come up with.
Right, 'cause if
It
we-
might be the end there, maybe the selectmen will be happy with whatever, we might have collected enough that they can do something with, but
Okay.
that's,
All right, I will make sure the press comes to our next meeting. I'll do the Cape Codder and the banner. I don't think we need much more than that.
okay?
So,
And maybe we can find out when those two organizations are sending out their next newsletter, so that we get a mention in there to check your tax bills.
And there was speaking of other towns, they said that they're talking about it, they haven't done anything about it, but Brewster is now coming into this place of dealing with parking.
Yep.
So I think they're probably just maybe
Dennis,
this
too.
summer getting some information.
Yep.
And they did do, in one of these coastal resiliencies, it was either that or the town of Dennis actually did take away a parking thing and retreated and made it, for coastal erosion purposes and
That was
draining
Brewster.
and that sort of thing.
And they've identified some land in town that can be utilized for additional parking.
Yes.
I wonder if, do we have any speakers designated for the next meeting or two?
no, we don't.
Okay.
You
It might
identify
be
some-
more attractive to the press if we held off until we do have a presentation and we have more interaction.
I think Wayne's trying to get some action sooner rather than later, and I agree with that, so.
I think the time, well, I don't know. We're not going to have any results from other than the Marina survey might be faster, because there's a deadline when they have to send in the rest is going to be the end of the summer before we can, unless we just say, hey, no one else is filling it
Well,
out, let's
it'll
cut
be
it off.
interesting to see how much comes back once people realize it's out electronically, how many residents will respond.
Right, but the people going to the stickers, it'll be right till Labor Day, or I don't know how late.
Hopefully they'll be as good as the
Oh, yeah.
mariners.
Well, yeah. There's a potential for, I think, 6,000 or something like that between the residents and the people that buy stickers at the shack that aren't residents.
Okay.
Well, do you want to try to get into I'll do it.
What?
I'll go chase the non-resident taxpayers in
No,
the seashore.
Well, do you know them well? I don't know them
I
personally.
have their email. Do you want me to reach out to Susan and say
Sure.
we had a parking meeting and we would like to be able to include you this summer? Or I could send it to you, Joe, and you could reach out to her.
I know Ellen Rothman
Reach out
pretty
to-
well.
Yeah, I know Ellen as well.
And their newsletter just came out like this last week.
Yeah, I just got it too.
It's 3 or 4 times a year.
Right,
Too bad.
Well, the emphasis is to try to get in their newsletter.
right.
Can they send email blasts, though? Can they just do a special email blast, one pager? Don't, submit your survey?
The part-time residents?
Yeah,
They did it for the letter writing campaign for dredging.
yes, they
I think
did.
that'd be better than putting it
Blasted.
in
In fact, they
a
blasted
newsletter,
out
'cause
a
it.
sample letter to
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah,
for,
And I bet you got a lot of those
Dredging.
written, because I know several non-resident taxpayers that sent theirs, just to support the town in that effort, so. And they weren't voters.
I
So
think
we're-
right, so
involving
who's
them,
gonna
in-
do which one? Who wants to do which one? Just CC me in the addresses so I know what's going on.
I will reach out, I have to respond to Susan anyway, I will reach out about a joint forum, and then I will say on another hat, there is a parking survey going out to residents,
Taxpayers.
taxpayers, pardon me, non and resident, and if you could just encourage your members to, to return that, it's important for us to hear their voice, and maybe we should do something in the summer, and then I'll maybe CC Joe too, and he can, you can get to know Sue, she's very
Well,
nice, very
with
smart
the,
woman.
with the survey that Bruce has set up, we have the choice of resident, non-resident at
Oh,
the
yeah,
very
that's right.
front, so you can color data on that, so.
Okay,
Enough?
I think so. I'll get Susan, I'll CC everybody on this, on the letter to Susan.
Okay,
I make a motion to adjourn.
thank you.
April 3rd is our next.
April 3rd is the next meeting, it'll be
Next meeting is
Wednesday,
April 3rd,
standard
okay,
time,
good.
first and third Wednesdays, so thank you very much.